Blood Money. Article by Anna von Reitz, Part 13. Additional issues for the International Court of Justice. 1 Compact. The genesis of America as a modern nation lies in the far distant past, when the hardy seafaring people of the Normandy coast, known as the Armoricans, a tribal nation within the Kingdom of Gaul, began trading with the natives of what is now known as Nova Scotia and the northeastern United States for furs. This trade was established and recorded in Roman times and continued unabated for at least 600 years, most recently evidenced by the French and Indian fur trade we still read about in our history books. It is from the Armoricans that America inherits its name, and so far as European colonization and government goes, it is with the government of Gaul that it all begins. Gaul is the ancient Roman name for France, and it was under the Kingdom of Gaul that the original Armorican trade in furs began. The Belchers are the equally ancient and dominant tribal nation of Gaul, and the chieftain kings of Normandy, including the land and blood of the Armoricans. So, in fact, the first European claims concerning this country result from the Armorican fur trade, and the very name of this country, America, is a British transliteration of Armorican. As the tribal chieftains of Gaul, the Belchers and their nations own all of France, and their peoples also populate and own the kingdoms of Aragon, Castile in Spain, and the kingdom of Powys in central England. From Powys, these European tribal chieftains migrated to America in 1608. They have remained in this country and populated it ever since. Those who came to this country were independent sovereigns in their own right, as a result of the settlement of the Norman conquest in 1087 AD, and kinsmen of William of Normandy, of the same family and lineage. James Clinton Belcher, Belcher being the British transliteration of Belcher, is the chieftain of the Belchers in America. His ancestral name in France is Gilroy d'Armentroy du Lac, and the honorable history of his house of Bellegarde in northern France is well known. It is his coat of arms that forms the basis of the great seals of both the United States and the United States of America. Thus, by both name and shield, and by history of service of his ancestor William Belcher of Connecticut in the Continental Army and afterward, the history of America on land and sea is inextricably connected to France as well as Spain and England, and by dust and by blood they make one compact via the hand of the clan chieftain of the Belchers, who has summoned the actual states of this country into session. All of the jurisdictions of the law, national, international, and global, all the local forms of law engaged in by our country and our countrymen, come together in one compact. Article 6, Section 2 of all 3 federal constitutions fully admits that treaty is the highest form of law among nations, and that all treaties are honored, including those concluded prior to the settlement of the War of Independence. The new American government assumed all treaty debts, obligations, and contracts. This allows us to be sure that this country functions in all respects in a single unbroken compact, and our knowledge and physical presence guarantees that the compact has never been vacated at any time. Thus, bona vacantia does not apply, and ownership interest in this country is not limited to those principles present in 1776, but includes a far more venerable heritage. The Mayflower Compact, signed November 11th of 1620 according to the Julian calendar, forms the first public declaration of law brought forward by the English settlers coming to these shores. But even prior to that, the British lineage Belchers had established their own testament and declaration of law in 1608, when they arrived in Boston, Massachusetts, and began building the Old South Church. Both of these foundations are international treaties established by sovereign principles, inherited under Article 6, Section 2. Both predate the earliest known treaties with North American Indian tribes. They predate the Treaty of Fort Pitt, also known as the Treaty with the Delawares, by over 150 years. Likewise, our seat of government and general post office for the United States of America comes by treaty with the Belgians in Spain in 1702, and has been established in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania since 1732. To this day, the United States of America is not a member of the Universal Postal Union and maintains its own separate service and private postal designations. James Clinton Belcher is the American Postmaster on the land and the American Postmaster on the sea by international treaty and inheritance predating the War of Independence. This is a foundational postal treaty that connects our country to postal services on an international and private basis. The United States Post Office, by contrast, was established by Benjamin Franklin in 1778, and also located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to serve the United States bureaucracy and the citizenry of the United States, including the Native American tribes subscribing to Roman civil law and municipal citizenship. The USPS is a member of the Universal Postal Union and operates in global commerce. Both of these postal treaties are vital to the proper functioning of our country as a member of the community of nations, and both must be honored and regulated according to our published treaties and constitutional agreements. When we reissued our sovereign letters patent on November 4th of 2015 according to the Gregorian calendar, we served the principles and international courts with our action as the United States of America, our unincorporated federation of states. When we issued the Joint Sovereign Letters Patent on November 6, 2015, according to the Gregorian calendar, we established a treaty of peace between ourselves and the Native American nations of the United States. Never again will the Native Americans suffer the atrocities and alienation from the land and soil that they have suffered for the last 150 years. All these actions, all these agreements on air, land, and sea make for peace and for plenty for all people. They are treaties stretching into the distant past and into the freedom of the future, woven into one tapestry of living history memorialized, one compact of law which belongs to everyone. We call upon the high courts of every jurisdiction to bow to the logic and the history, the signs and the symbols, the names which cannot be erased, the noble purposes and intentions that have inspired us for centuries, and the end of the spiritual war which has been based on the delusion of separateness. Anna Maria Reisinger, Fiduciary, the United States of America.